Are you ready to join me in transforming fear to freedom? That's the objective of the show. Are you ready to explore with me and my guests? Are you ready to get into the deep and play? This is where it's at, and that's what it's all about. No medical advice here. Use discernment and decide for yourself if the information is right for you. All views and opinions expressed on this show belong to the individual and are not necessarily shared with the producer of the show. Want more details? Go to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com. Now let's get real and have some fun. Who are we going to explore with today? Come on with me and let's get into the deep. Good afternoon, good evening, good night. It's Catherine from Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine, and we are going to have a fun chat today. This I know is true. I'm going to be sitting down with Doug, also known as 10 Rose, who's the author of Fearless Puppy on an American Road and Reincarnation Through Common Sense. We are going to get into it today for sure. I know we are. He's had quite a life, quite a lot of inspiration through life. He has learned as he walked, and he walks his talk, and he's just an interesting fellow. His books are written for the purpose of sharing a story and a fundraiser. So all the profits go towards charity, which we're going to also talk about and find out why this one and what he's really motivated to do and why. And I just know he's going to inspire us too, and that's really why I wanted to chat with him, because he is unique, but he's not special, and he'll tell you that himself. So let's get into this. Let's have some fun with Doug 10 Rose right now. All right, so welcome back to Let's Get Real, chatting with Catherine, and today it's my absolute pleasure to be sitting down and chatting with 10 Rose, who is an interesting man. He's really lived, he's really encompassed what I call, being real, and he's taken that, his reality, and turned it into something awesome by his books and sharing those books with us. And we're going to get into the conversation about how this all came to pass. So welcome to the show, 10. How are you today?
Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here. I'm glad to be here with you because you do such good stuff. And even more so because I love Canada. And this is the first time I've ever had a Canadian interview. I've had about 100 in America. But I just, every time I go up there, I love it and have a great time.
Well, I'm honored. That's wonderful. See, I knew I was special right there.
You'd be special even if you were in Mozambique. It doesn't matter where you are. But
thank you.
They're special anyways, but just to have it be Canadian just adds another good thing to it.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting because we all have our own different cultures and different ways of doing things and speaking and looking at things from our own little filter, and I have a Canadian filter, that does change the dynamics of an interview.
Well, very much so. I mean, you guys use your guns for hunting food. We use our guns for hunting people down here, so there is quite a difference.
There is a different. There definitely. I will say that there is a different concept of how what we think about life, and it's interesting because we both countries came from similar roots, and we both had similar horror too. For the native people in our countries, but from that, we took a different approach, and I don't know if it's because it's so darn cold up here that we don't waste energy fighting. We especially the earlier settlers. I mean, they didn't have time for that crap. They had to feed their families and get a house, a roof over their heads, and so there's no time. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe we learned to get along a little bit better. We're not perfect, I'll tell you that. We have our stuff too, but. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty friendly up there, though.
Yeah, we can be. I mean, don't catch me on a bad day. I'm not always friendly. But 10, you have 2 books, and the first one is that I think it's written this way. Fearless Puppy on an American Road is the first one. And then the second one is Reincarnation Through Common Sense, which I love because common sense is not that common. So
practice, no, it's just common sense.
So when did you write the first book, Fearless Puppy?
I should preface all this by saying that I'm not an author. I guess I am now, you know. I bet the books have like 25 stars on Amazon and 1 4 star. So I guess I am an author and I'm pretty good at it, but it's quite by accident. I mean, the whole idea of this is that it's a charity project.
Hmm.
And you've looked back at my website and all the news articles and stuff from the past. That's what I really like to do. So I couldn't figure out, I wanted to sponsor wisdom professionals because the other projects that I've done been for like famine relief and for an orphanage and the homeless and everything. I started noticing, you know, I should have noticed it from the jump, but it comes out and bites you once you see it. But all of those problems are rooted in the fact that people are not acting with enough wisdom. They're acting out of fear, and it's not only the government people, because the ocean ain't going to be any different than the drops, and we're the drops,
Right.
you know. So I don't blame politicians for anything. They didn't fall out of a dimension from another universe. I mean, we're the ones who put them there. But all these problems seem to be rooted in a lack of wisdom, and people are reacting on fear and greed impulses and just like weird stuff. So I decided that that should be the root cause, and that's what I should devote the rest of my life to, instead of doing projects for all these other things, which are very important. I mean, it has to be done to raise money to feed poor people and try to do something about homelessness and whatnot. But the root of all this is a lack of wisdom. So my idea was to make it financially viable for a very big jump in the number of wisdom professionals, you know, people that spend their whole lives getting on this and learning about it, studying about it, and then helping others who want information and help with it. So that's why the books were written in the first place. They're basically just a funding vehicle
Right.
for this charity project. If it wasn't for this project, I never would have written the books. I just figured the odds were a little bit better than winning the lottery.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I've raised the kind of money I want to raise if I write books and try to sell them. So that's where all that came from. And yeah, Fearless Puppy happened first. The incidences in that book happened first, but I started Reincarnation Through Common Sense first, then stopped it because it was so difficult, then wrote Fearless Puppy, and then when I became a little bit more of a writer after writing Fearless Puppy, I went back and finished off Reincarnation Through Common Sense.
But you know,
Because
well, there's no
Yeah.
there's no accidents in life. It's one thing to, I get what you're saying, that you didn't set out to be an author, but the reality is that's something you do. Of course, it's not who you be, but it's something you do, right? It's that you
Yeah.
write, you write. But it's
I guess who I be at this point, I don't know,
It's who
from
you
what
be.
people tell me.
Yeah, well, because it's interesting though, because we all have our different experiences in life, and had you not had the experiences, you wouldn't be able to write the books, which would then bring you to,
That's-
you know.
Yeah, certainly true. Well, let your viewers go to www.fearlesspuppy.org, and there's sample chapters from both books there. So they can judge for themselves whether I'm more of a writer or a broke-ass philanthropist.
Well, it
But,
matters not. You know what? You're bringing some real important insight into life. Like you said, you know, I want to go back a little bit with you, Jen, to you know, you've done all of this fundraising and all these things. Your heart was called to poverty, to help, you know, eradicate poverty and homelessness and all those things. And you had all those real life experiences. You had them yourself. But your call, like, it feels to me like being homeless to you wasn't about you. It was just, you were just homeless. Like, it doesn't feel like, yeah, but you were called to assist other people in those kinds of things. And so what I'm wondering is, when did you become so, or like, were you just, when you were a little boy, did you have this place where you really felt like things weren't quite right in this world and that you were going to try to make a difference, or did you fall into everything? Was it all synchronistic?
I don't ever remember thinking that everything was right in the world, ever. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you look around. I grew up in New York City, in Brooklyn, in a mafia neighborhood. All right, you could, and like right there was Coney Island,
Right.
and you can walk from one block to another block, and see people walking around in mink coats on one block, and then go over there, and there's people who have the sole missing off their shoe because they don't have enough money even to get shoed. So, and I grew up with that. I don't ever recall thinking that everything was right and that there were no problems ever. Not even when I had the soft spot in my head as a baby and I was Santa Claus eligible and you believe everything, you know. But, you know, it was just way too obvious that something was wrong. And, you know, and besides that, I mean, all these things that I do, you know, people say, oh, you're such a good guy, you go out and you do this stuff and that's all for other people. Well, yeah, basically it is all for other people, but folks don't know how selfish an act it is to be doing stuff for other people.
Yeah.
I mean, you could go out and like spend $100,000 buying the fanciest car in the world. And if you take that same $100,000 and you go out and help somebody get a job, another guy just, you know, get some food or something for the day,
Right.
and whatever it is, and you go, you know, that giving, there's really no other feeling like that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, true, I don't feel like I'm really, you know, here or any different or any special or anything like that. But just the act of helping other people, it really brings great benefit to the individual doing the helping as well as the person who gets help.
It is. You know, and I think as people, more and more people are starting to wake up to the reality that, you know, we're all connected. And when we are, you know, you're not connected to stuff. You're not attached to stuff. That's clear. And I have no problem with stuff. People, you know, having stuff is not the problem. It's when you have when your stuff owns you. When instead of you actually owning your stuff and choosing what you want, you just become the consumer mindset that you just can't. It's like an addiction. And and then there's and the people that haven't, like, I don't think anybody actually chooses poverty and chooses all of that, but it is a mindset, because I do think there's enough on this planet for everybody to thrive.
Very much so. It's only a matter of distribution. That's
exactly.
the problem.
That's the problem. And some of it has to do with the mindsets. Well, most of our mindset. The mindset of the person, like you say, that is, you know, lavishing more and more toys on themselves, and the person who believes they'll never rise to the above. They'll never have enough food on their table. It's still a mindset, you know, where we get stuck. And that's what I liked about the title, A Reincarnation Through Common Sense. So you're not talking about the death of the body, you're talking about the death of the spirit over and over. And we are reinvented every day. Like, I'm not the same. Pardon?
Basically,
yes.
With that thought and action,
Yeah.
you were who you were, and then now you're who you are in addition to that action. And it could be, it's usually so simple, and people keep repeating the same things over and over again, so they don't even notice the change is happening. But it could be extremely severe. I mean, look, Catherine, at this very moment, I can get up right now, walk outside, go get a rifle, go to a bell tower, and become a sniper.
Yeah.
Or I could get up right now, go find some poor people in the street, pick them up, start feeding them and cleaning them up, and become Mother Teresa.
Yeah.
There's no limit to the options. Everything is out there for us to do. But people tend to stay in the same stream, in the same patterns. It's like a lot of folks get caught, they act like they're caught in a river where the current's running really fast.
Yes.
And it's just washing them away, and they're out of control of their own lives, when in fact, at any moment, anybody who decides to, and whose mind opens up enough and becomes aware of what they're actually doing so that they can break out of the conditioning, will realize that there's a bank on either side they can swim to and go start something altogether different on land.
Yeah.
They don't have to be swept away by the current of and the nuances of the culture and what they're used to, and that expression that I can't stand more than any other one, which is that's just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is just the way it
No.
is. That's a load of garbage.
Well, the truth is, we're living on a planet that's in constant change. It's never just the way it is. By the time you finish that sentence, something's already changed. You can't. That's the truth. That's how we live. And you mentioned something. You were interviewed recently by Charlotte, and I actually posted the link to that on my Facebook page because I wanted people to have a visit with you and kind of get to know you, because I find your story very intriguing, but not so much. For one thing, you're very humble, which it's lovely, and at the same time.
Yeah, you got to realize that everybody's the same. I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is a crucial point. It's not a matter of being humble, it's a matter of being realistic. The problem that a lot of people have is a sense of entitlement that I'm more important and my stuff is more important, so it doesn't matter if I harm that person in order to get my extra little bit of stuff or whatever, craving or aversion you're trying to satisfy.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is that none of those people you're hurting are any less important than you are. They have the same right to happiness. They have the same right and desire to get away from suffering. Mm-hmm. And I think that's like a real big part of the problem and a crucial point that you just hit there.
I do. And it's only that the reason I say that is because some of the things that you brought up, which I was so eager to share, and I want to share with people who are listening, because one, I want them to, be intrigued enough to go and look at your book, because it's and to buy it, and to help, like you say, to help people to share the wisdom, like you say, which is really what's missing. Is we've become dumbed down in many ways because we're saturated with information that is all about consume. It's not about think. It's not about choose. It's about the message is so powerful to tell you that you are not enough, that you are broken, and only with my kind of toothpaste or shampoo or whatever the crap is will you be fixed. And it's just a lot of BS. And so, right? So, but what I liked about what you're saying is everybody has it. Like you said, every one of us has both in us. We can be the lunatic, crazy, hurting people, and that could just be in your own family. You don't have to do it on a mass scale. You can just be a major, or you can be someone who is generously living and giving their gifts. You choose. Both of those are in all of us, and we tend to look. Yeah, well, we tend to look out at the world and think, when someone does something bad, oh, I could never do that. Yes, you could. You could. Given the right circumstances, we all have it in us. And if
anybody thinks back on their lives, they'll come up with you think long, hard, and honest enough, you'll come up with a situation where you acted like Hitler and another one where you acted like Mother Teresa.
Exactly.
Yeah. And usually almost everybody spends their lives in the middle there.
Yeah.
But those extremes are in everybody, and it's our job to cultivate the positive and to try to delete the negative as much as possible.
Exactly.
Not to deny it, but just to see it there and tell it to go away. I'm not doing this, Yeah. And anybody who's read a newspaper in the past 50 years knows that there's too much of that's not being done.
We're not choosing. We become robotic, right? This is why I like in Fearless Puppy, you're really talking about an adventure in real life, and because you're hitchhiking, you're a young guy, and you're exploring, and you're meeting up with people who are all kinds of different adventures, which is real. It's real. It was from your life experiences, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I should say something about that. Reincarnation through common sense is 100% true. Every word in that book is true. It was written while I was living in a Buddhist temple. Fearless Puppy on American Road, I say to myself that it's true, but in the introduction I said is based on true events because some of the facts have been tweaked. All right, first of all, a lot of the stuff happened 35 years ago.
Sure.
And besides that, I did 500 tabs of acid, not to mention a whole ton of other drugs back then. And so not all of it's going to be true. And then to boot, there were a few chapters where I just got tired of writing about myself because after a while, it's just like, there's too much of me, you know? So I took some of my stories and made them a person who picked me up hitchhiking. All right.
Very cool.
So that person picked me up hitchhiking, and I told their story, which was actually my story.
But isn't it interesting though how we like what's true? You know, like even when you're saying, well, yeah, it's true, but I was doing acid, or you know, so you had some addiction problems at that time. I'd read about that aspect of it. But the thing is, whether you're doing something like that or whatever else, we all have our filters. So when we write a book and we say this is true, it's true from my point of view. It's true from, right? So whatever you were writing at, whether you write it 30 years later, you're looking back on your memories, that's how we all live. We say, well, this is a fact. And, you know, a lot of people will recall, they'll be at a family gathering, which you guys just were celebrating, I shouldn't say you guys, but people were celebrating Thanksgiving and in the United States. So you have all the big family gathering, and then somebody will say, well, remember the time something happened in, you know, whatever, and you're in the same family, you were in the same room, everything was the same, but you both have a different point of view. So, and they're both true.
Yeah.
So that's when I hear...
they're both facts, I guess, according to the person who's looking at them. Frank Lloyd Wright, the great architect, had a wonderful quote about that said, the truth is more important than the facts. And there is that. There is that. And there's different versions of truth for sure, depending on who's looking at them. I mean, that's a lot of what I write about in the reincarnation book is the subjective as opposed to objective kind of point of view and slant on the truth.
But, you know, I mean, I think that there's great value in sharing experiences as you have. And, you know, the fact that you're, choosing for the profits to go to charity. I'd like to, you know, expand a little bit on that. Like why this charity? I know that you, if people look at your bio and information, they'll know that you've been doing work for the homeless and the hungry and poverty for all your life. It appears, that's been your passion. So now these books are written and the profits are going to wisdom keepers, right? Wisdom
professionals, but not exclusive to Buddhist nuns and monks.
Okay.
All right, because I had a first-hand experience with them over there.
Can you tell us about that? That's
kind of what triggered. Well, that's what Reincarnation Through Common Sense book is all about. I was over in Southeast Asia and got married too quickly and moved in with a situation instead of a person. And I woke up one morning and found out the person was attached to it. So didn't work out, and I got taken advantage of. I lost whatever I had, which wasn't too much. But then everything looked really bad, so I thought I drowned it in alcohol, and we know that doesn't work. So the next thing I know, I'm just bopping around there. I've got no money, no plane ticket home. I'm saturated with alcohol. I don't speak the language. People don't speak my language. And I'm just like out in the woods. So a friend of mine brought me over to the temple, translated, and this is like a temple way out in the country, in a small village with dirt paths where people are living like they were 1,000 years ago. I mean, if it was in a big city, it would be altogether different.
Right.
Moving to this kind of atmosphere would be a shock right in America, much less over there.
Right.
So I go there, my friend translates the conversation with the head monk, and he says, okay, you can move in here. There's your cabin up there. He gave me a regular monk cabin. And he says, I'm your older brother now, and the monks and nuns here are your family. They're like your brothers. And said they basically adopted me and kept me there for half a year until I turned sane again.
Wow.
Now, I'm thinking to myself, if they could do this for me, then, and it's not just I recognize that it wasn't just because they were Buddhist monks and nuns. That's the kind of, there are certainly people like that with that kind of heart, compassion, and slant in almost every culture and religion that you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
So to fund these wisdom professionals, to get an increase in the number of wisdom professionals on earth, seemed like it would help all those other issues.
Mm-hmm.
All right? Because once people get smart, I mean, their wisdom and compassion are like linked so tightly together that they're in the same skin,
Yes. Yeah.
basically. So once people get to being like that and being that compassionate, you're not going to walk past a person who's starving on the street. You're going to do something about it. You're not going to be able to like just step over a homeless person like people do in cities and walk by and say, yeah, forget about it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what inspired me to do this, and I think this will be the big project that I do from now until death, because it's got so much of an influence on anything else.
Do you think is that where you let go of addiction? Was there?
No. When I was a heroin addict was a long time before that. It was decades before that, and I quit. And the other stuff like smoking weed and acid, I don't look at that as addiction. That wasn't addiction. It was the heroin was the addiction.
Right.
And that was recovered from just without any medical assistance or anything. I just decided it was time to stop.
Right.
And that was decades earlier.
Okay. So you were just really in a place of needing compassion, needing some love, needing to matter, and when you hit that temple, you know.
I was wandered around lost in the woods.
Yeah.
But that's what made it such an interesting book, is that there are a lot of white boy in an Asian temple kind of books, all right? But they're all by people who were going over there specifically to study Buddhism.
Right.
And they tell the story.
Right.
And you get it from that slant of a theology student.
Right.
That's looking at that kind of thing, and all the story that's being told is funneled into that kind of point of view.
Right.
Whereas this was just it could have been told by a street kid from Brooklyn, and basically, I didn't speak the language. They didn't speak my language. I had no money. I'm just completely lost. And it was a very hard write. That's why I started it, wrote the other book, and came back and finished it. Because go ahead and try even speaking for 3 minutes about silence, much less writing 300 pages about it. Because the whole thing the whole 6 months took place basically in silence, because we didn't speak each other's language. And when you're not talking, you know how like if somebody loses their hearing, their eyesight gets sharper, their sense of touch gets sharper. Somebody who loses their eyesight, their hearing gets sharper. Well, if you're there without language, psycho-spiritual processes start getting sharper, especially when you're living in the middle of people who spend their whole lives practicing those psycho-spiritual processes anyways.
Yeah.
So it became a very interesting book to write, and very difficult.
Well, you'd be heightened. You'd have to you learn to communicate much as animals communicate. You have to be aware. You're going to communicate. You're being, so you communicate.
Animals don't have the facility that humans have. You do use that, animal communication where it's in tune with just, without the words, without the actual language.
Right.
But with the human facility that we have, with the abilities that we have that animals don't, to reason and different kinds of things that humans can do with their brains that animals can't, It's a little bit of a different ballgame. Yeah.
But so from the
Yeah.
other side of that, aside from the book itself, did you find that your life changed after that?
Oh, without question. Without question. I went in there and I was like an inch from dead and a hair and a half from being a gorilla. And I left there as a human being and a professional altruist with a mission, you know?
Cool.
I mean, it's not that that's where it started. I mean,
No.
I had done the family relief projects and the homeless thing and all of that stuff like years before.
Well, it's in you. It's in you, Ten. It's not like it's in you, that compassion, that willingness to step out and say, I can do something about this, to really just to see it and not see it as too big, just seeing it as, okay, that's happening. I'm aware of it. I'm going to do something. And that's part of why I wanted to chat with you, is because I want people to know you don't have to be, you know, a millionaire. You don't have to be someone with, you know, a full-time job and a car and all the luxuries. You had nothing, but you still said, I can do something about this. And that's where everybody can get that. Doesn't matter what level you're at.
Not only it doesn't matter what you have as far as material possessions, but you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be Mother Teresa, Albert Einstein. You just have to be human, you know, which, like, one of my favorite stories of all time, actually. It's going to be in the third book, which I'm about halfway through now. But after doing the Family Relief Project, it started out locally in a small town in Massachusetts, ended up being Massachusetts for Africa, and involved the governor, pro sports teams, Senator Kerry put it in the Congressional Record and all this.
Wow.
So it was a big whoop-de-doo. So, and it all started from me being in this bar. I mean, during the 80s, I was trying to drain the world of its alcohol content. So I'm over there in the bar and having a couple of beers. And Hugh Downs, I think it was on 2020, broke that story. A couple of years before, there was the Live Aid and Hands Across America and We Are the World and all of that.
Yeah.
So when he first broke the story on 2020 and brought it to world attention, we're just sitting on the bar getting plastered. And the guy next to me says, wow, that's terrible. It's, you know, too bad we can't do anything about it. And something just snapped in my brain. And I said, wait a minute, I can do something about it. And I started out I was working as a juvenile counselor at the time, and went and talked to the kids about it. And these were all abused kids, neglected. Some of them the state had taken away from their parents for abuse. Some of them had been through the court system. So I said, how about, you know, we do a little tag sale, we'll gather up free stuff and we'll sell it, and whatever money, we'll send it to the family relief people. They all said, all right, good idea, good idea. So we did it, and one thing led to another, and it just turned into this monstrous thing. It was like it ran itself almost.
Yep.
Like I'm just, and I got that feeling with the books a lot, like I'm just holding this pen. Mm-hmm. Somebody else is doing it. You know? Mm-hmm. But anyways, the kids, the best part for me in the beginning was that these were kids who never had anybody tell them they did something right, and could never feel like they did something, you know, positive. You know, always being told how bad they were about. So just to go at the end and tell them that they actually saved other kids' lives. You should have seen them light up and glow. It was just baffling. I could have quit right there. But the thing took off by itself. It went statewide. The governor, like I said, and all these labor unions, the Massachusetts Teachers Union got involved and passed it through all the public schools. And I had none of the money coming through me. It was all, I had 5 different reputable, well-known organizations people could send the money to.
Yeah.
So there was no question about authenticity there, because, like, how's this guy taking anything off the top?
Yeah.
There's nothing coming into him. All right, so the whole thing gets done. About a month later, I'm back in the same bar, and I'm sitting there having a beer. A guy comes in the back door, nice guy, A couple of the people knew him at the table, I didn't, and he sits down, has a beer with us, invited him over, how you doing? A whole bunch of people who were famous for not being able to remember names introduced themselves to him by name, so there's no way he's ever going to, nobody's going to remember anything here
Right.
on this crowd. That's just at the time. It's obviously not like that anymore.
Right.
So this guy looks at me and he gets about halfway through his beer and his eyes open wide and he looks at me and I'm scared. I think this guy's on some kind of drug and he thinks I'm untapped keg. He's having a hallucination. He's going to come try to drink me or something. So he looks at me and goes, "Oh, you're that guy from the newspapers. You're great." I said, "Don't be an idiot. I'm just a drunk from Hugo's bar like you are, And it snapped. And I love that because it snapped in his head. He figured it out. Not many people, even people that you're close to and you grow up with all your life, they don't always get it. When you say something, people don't always hear what you're meaning. They hear what they're hearing. And this guy actually heard what I was saying, which was that I'm no special than you are. You could have been in the newspapers, and you could have done the same project I just did. The difference is I got my drunken ass off the bar stool and went and did it.
Yeah.
And if there's any singular message I could bring to people, it would be that. I mean, people in general have this feeling of powerlessness.
Yeah.
I'm just one little person. What can I do? The problems are so big and everything's so... But, all right, and it's true to an extent.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in the middle of a big international world that's like all type, you're one little a drop in the ocean. But the fact of the matter is that that's the only place. It's not only a good place, it's the only place that progress can be made.
Yeah.
Because it's like, all right, take humanity, the metaphor of humanity being the ocean. A lot of people use that because it works. And we're all the little drops. So the drops are yelling at the ocean, "Hey, ocean, you're dirty, you're miserable, clean yourself up, come on, what are you doing?" The ocean's only made up of the drop. Yell at yourself,
Yep.
Go do something, anything, and anybody can do it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be a genius. You don't have to be a religious figure or anything else. Every
drop
person-
counts. Like every time that little tiny ripple it drop makes that ripple, that's phenomenal. And we all know that. We know that.
You never know where that ripple is going to go. I mean, first of all, you have the influence of your own drop there, and only the drops make up the ocean. If anything's going to get changed in the global painting, it's only going to be by individual brushstrokes by each individual person.
Exactly. And I like that you're really we have the big icons like the Mother Teresa's and of the world. We have that, but had you not got off that, you didn't just help those kids that were suffering in the famine. You did something for those kids that were in your own community, empowered them.
Yeah, I like multiple benefit things. Whenever I do, I've done a couple of donations, and whenever I do them, I try to hook them to matching fund things.
Yeah.
Like they need something for a certain fund drive. If you need like $100, okay, I'll match every dollar that comes in up to $50.
Yeah.
So then people start thinking, well, I got
So I'm doubling my money.
Yeah, if I give $1, it's actually $2.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing about the books and all of this project that I'm doing now is that all the profits are going to fund wisdom professionals. All right, that's the main motivation. And then all those wisdom professionals will teach other people. They get smarter, and everything benefits at that point. The kids get smarter. The wings don't get pulled off of butterflies. It goes real small and it goes real big, and it could reach into something else. And all of this benefit is also tweaked by, there's a lot of wisdom in the books. I mean, I quoted a lot of my teachers. I'll be the first one to admit that there's nothing up here that hasn't come in from a teacher that triggers something, then your internal consciousness can come up and flower.
Exactly.
But you know, without the teachers, matter of fact, there's a whole section in the third book that's called Remembering Teachers, and it's got little 2-page chapters about 20, 30, 40 different teacher people.
But here's
who I've gotten a lot from, even if I never met them. You know,
right?
Dalai Lama, Mother Teresa, George Carlin is another one.
Oh, yeah, he's a good one. I love George Carlin.
So these multiple benefit things are, if you look for as many, you know, hitting it from more angles as opposed to less, then you can do multiple good with the same action.
Yes.
But even to do a singularly pointed good thing, like just give $1 to somebody and then it's over, that still helps. And anybody, there's nobody who can't do this.
Well, yeah, and the other part that I really liked about something you said that I actually heard you say before, but the reason I want to bring it up is because the book is not a religious book, Reincarnation Through Common Sense. Yeah. And what I liked about it is you don't really seem to espouse to, you don't really care about if there's anything after this life. You're really saying, right here, right now, this moment, this is what counts. Whether you get a reward in the afterlife, whether you're, you know, seen as good or bad, doesn't matter.
Yeah, your reward is going to be, if there is such a thing, and one of the most famous monks in Southeast Asia said this. I forget the exact words of the quote, but it's something like, if there is any after here, it's only going to be whatever you did here. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, and all theories on reincarnation, as in the reincarnation of dying and going to another body or something like that, say that the only thing that'll follow you is your karma. You don't take your money and your clothes with you.
That's right.
So, in other words, whatever you do here is what's going to happen there anyway. So why you sweat and worry about there? Just get it right here.
Yeah.
And then it's done. But the Dalai Lama himself said that our knowledge of eternity is about equal to a chick that hasn't broken out of the egg yet. It's about equal to that knowledge of what the outside world looks like.
Yeah.
I mean, if you haven't, and basically that's it. We haven't broken out of the human shell in order to connect with eternity, except during certain ecstatic moments that we have.
But I totally, you know, it's that this is where you created such a lovely bridge, because it doesn't matter what your religious beliefs are. It matters that you're here now. If you're on the planet now, then you can contribute. Then you can do something. You're here now, and it's not, you know, it's funny because I've heard that saying years ago, all that matters is right now, and it was said, and then people took it as to mean, what a selfish person. He doesn't care about tomorrow. He doesn't care about, you know, but really, if you think about it, that's all we ever have is right now. Like
there's no such thing as past or future, really.
Really? So
yeah, because life takes place in the present tense.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a lot of the problem, and that seems to be the main focus of a lot of this wisdom we're trying to get thrown into the world.
Yeah.
People are always running around and they're not in the present tense. They're constantly having out-of-body experiences. Everybody talks about, out-of-body experiences, like it's a big spiritual thing. The big spiritual thing is having an in-body experience, all right? Because if you're in your body and in the present tense, we're usually not. It's the wife, the husband, the bills, the car, the house, whatever it is. And people are always focused on these external things, moving too fast. The stress levels in modern society are just incredible, and nobody could sit down. You know, you can't put 10 pounds of stuff in a 5-pound bag.
Yeah.
That seems to be what everybody's trying to do with their life.
Well, and also, you know, either hanging on to the wounds of the past, or trying to hoard enough stuff so that when I get to the future, I'll have all my stuff and then I can help someone else, and not realizing that might never come, and that is gone. It's not now. It's just not.
It's a ridiculous concept of I'm going to do this and then I'll be happy. I'm going to get that and then I'll be happy. And nobody stops long enough to just take a deep breath, sit down and think, wait a minute, why not skip the middleman? Why don't I just be happy now?
Yeah.
You're happy first. If you're happy first and you just decide, that's going to be my mindset.
Yeah.
I'm going to be happy whatever I go through. All right. I'm going to be happy with it. Somebody somewhere is doing a lot worse than me. I got no cause to bitch here. All right. So I'm going to be happy, and then then you find that you end up getting more stuff. Really, I mean, if you're thinking I'm going to get that car and then I'll be happy, it can backfire on you. But if you're thinking I'm going to be happy, a lot of times you'll end up with the car later on.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because you went at it with that attitude, because nobody wants to deal with a sour, miserable person.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly.
So you're not going to have that good a rapport with the world if you're constantly like, oh, this is no good, and I got to have that before I feel good, and I got to get this before I feel good. Just be happy and feel good. Be grateful for what you have, because there's a lot to be grateful for, especially between America and Canada. Jesus, we like really won the Powerball lottery of human history here.
Yeah.
You know? We're
Yeah.
victims of comfort, if anything.
Yeah.
But we won the Powerball lottery of human history as far as, being wealthy and comfortable is concerned.
Yeah.
So appreciate that, be happy with it, and once you get that happiness instilled in yourself as a regular quality, as part of your character, that's indelible through practice, not through accident like I first got it with 500 tabs of acid, but stabilizing that, doing the meditation, the thinking, the mind work that it takes to stabilize that happiness, then everything starts rolling pretty good for you all by itself.
Yeah, and you're not advocating person, because people listen to this and they may be inspired by what you do, and you're not advocating person needs to experiment with drugs in order to get connected.
I would think if anybody has an idea about experimenting with drugs in order to reach a higher state of mind, first what they should do is get a moped and put some rocket fuel in it and go for a ride, because that's what it's like. I got more dead friends than live ones. I hung around with a crew of 14 junkies. Within 1 year, there were 2 of us left.
Wow.
All right?
Wow.
So it is really, I always compare it to like riding in a moped that's loaded with rocket fuel.
Wow.
Because this thing is good. I mean, life isn't always easy as it is.
Yeah.
Even if you're in your right mind,
Yeah.
things are going to go this way and that, and you're going to have to make conscious decisions that improve your situation, that draw you into where you want to go, move you in the direction you want to be moving in, and keep your mind right. And if you're all screwed up on it, and, I mean, there are advantages breaking down the walls and to breaking out of the box so you can think according to what you think as opposed to what the culture thinks for you.
Right.
But there are better ways to do it than to go for a moped ride using rocket fuel, because more people burn up than land safely. I'm a very severe exception to the rule. Like I said, there's like 2 out of 14 left, and that was within 1 year.
Wow.
I don't know if that other one's still alive.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is, I mean, it's a powerful message, because you're really cutting through the crap. You're really getting to it's real people doing real things, just being who we are, and stop buying into all the the story about who you need to be before you can be. Just be you. You wouldn't be here if you weren't important.
That's the golden point there. Who you need to be before you can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, just the sound of it is berserk.
Yeah.
But if you look around, that's what everybody's doing. Not everybody, but that's what the majority of folks are doing. They're trying to be something else before they can be themselves.
Mm-hmm. I had that experience with politics. I was
the trick is to be yourself.
Be authentic always. Don't when I arrive then I'll become this. No, you'll never arrive. We go, there's a saying, to build your foundation the way you mean to go on. So build it on something solid, and it'll continue to be that. And so, but who do you like? Your books they're not young children's books, but so what age would you say appropriate for the books?
I think the Reincarnation Through Common Sense can be read by anybody. I don't know if very young children probably won't understand a lot of what's in it. Fearless Puppy on the other on American Road is another story altogether. That's got a lot of sex, drugs, and rock and roll in it, and I guess we can call that like a 16 to death thing. But I mean, for anybody that does, and a lot of people would give it to their younger kids, but for those who, I mean, there's curse words in there, there are sexual situations, there's drug use. I mean, so some people, would want their kids to see that up until a certain age. Personally, I don't know what the harm in it is because that's Earth. Welcome to Earth.
Well, what I think about stuff like that is, especially when it's real, you really were hitchhiking. You really did meet people. Now, maybe your memory of it may not be completely accurate, but the reality is, I mean, even 14-year-olds, I mean, they're out there. We've got kids who are in teenage prostitution. We've got kids who are hitchhiking for survival. We got people living on the streets. Maybe rather than have to live it, read it when you're 13. You may look at that and go, you know what? I'm not choosing that. I'm going to choose something else. Sometimes reading a truth is enough. You don't have to experience it yourself. You could just go, all right, that's interesting. I'm not doing that. I don't know.
I gotta hope so. I mean, that's the whole point of this, is that he's gonna be able to fund these wisdom teachers, and they'll come along and people come to them and ask questions. I mean, they don't go out and proselytize or anything. No. It's not like you need to recruit more people. But
it's not a religion. You're not funding a religion. You're actually helping to support people.
Spirituality, and that's a good point, in that religion and spirituality should be the same thing, but they're often not.
No.
Religion is a lot of, it can be a wonderful thing if taken in the right spirit, but there's a lot of concretized symbols there. There's a lot of fossilized dogma that meant something when the symbols were taken as symbols.
Right.
Because it's all a mystery.
Yeah.
But when people can't stand not knowing exactly what everything is, then they start concretizing the symbols.
Right.
And these things that, like a virgin birth that's supposed to represent the instantaneous, spontaneous arrival of spirituality and the lift up to the spiritual off the mundane level, now all of a sudden that means that some woman actually had a baby without having sex. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of things like that in the original, mystic tradition of all these religions, not singling out any one.
Right.
These things were symbolic. That's, for me, the good part about Buddhism, is it's more a school of thought than a religion, and they have a lot of deities, but these deities all represent something that you're supposed to instill in yourself. The deity of compassion has 1,000 arms. You don't think that there's somebody who lives in the sky that has 1,000 arms. Right. And is actually walking around on the clouds, swaying them around with his arms. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a symbol of reaching out your compassion to everywhere, and it's something you're supposed to instill in yourself. Right. Not something you're supposed to concretize as like actually being a living, solidified, bodily and housed, entity.
Yeah, I get it. And I really think that it's important that we can share, regardless of different religious beliefs and stuff. Like, that's what I think is great. Like, religion has its beauty. There's all beauty in all the different various religions and the traditions and all that stuff. But I agree with you. We get really, we've sort of taken the thing about being made in God's image and turning around and saying God is made in our image. We're trying to make God look like us, which is absurd.
But there's an easy way to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's easy to figure out. If your God hates the same people that you hate, you make God in your image.
Yeah, exactly.
Not the other way around.
No, and that's why, that's part of why I do this show, is because I really feel that the more we talk to each other, the more we get to know each other, the less we fear each other. And then when we don't fear, we don't hate. It's so, you can just see it so clearly. If I'm afraid of something, I hate it. When I say, I hate snakes, what am I really saying? I'm terrified of them. I'm not saying, and that's the same with people. If I don't know you, the only experience I have with a person, Muslim person, is what I saw on 9/11 or what was told to me by media, then I'm going to have a fear, and then that's going to breed hate. It's not true in my world.
Hypnotized. Yeah, we're being hypnotized by the media, basically. I don't know how it is in Canada, but in America, they've been on the TV so long showing the criminals, and they're all black. It's very selective reporting.
Yes.
They don't show you the real criminals who are like making Agent Orange and putting the same garbage in your food and all like that. They show you, they pick little examples to show you. So then people in America, they're all scared of black people, or were. This is changing rapidly.
Yeah.
But this has been instilled in us and it's been done on purpose.
But don't forget, Ten, that we also have a lot of American TV influence in Canada. We are, we're just, we have satellite. We're just as influenced. I mean, in that sense. But also you look at media through movies and whatever. During World War II, with the big Nazi situation happening, every bad guy in a movie after that, until we found a new bad guy, had a German accent, had to look like he was German. He was white, but he was or Russian. Because it's like they took what this idea of the enemy and turned and then every children's movies
and power who are responsible for this media outpouring of garbage, who hire these people to put that information into your head, stand to profit greatly if you're not watching them. They pull their eyes with fear of some other group. The Germans after World War II. Then it goes on to the Koreans and like this one and that one. They got, and it's not that all these people are positive, but while you're scared of that and while you're paying attention to some nonsense or whatever it is, then they can go ahead and take over the banking system and twist it any way that they want to twist it.
I know, it's the magician, the old magician's trick. Watch this hand while this one's doing. Yeah. Every time I see something in the news that's really hyped, sensationalized, I say, wonder what else is going on in the world right now, because they got everybody looking at that. Well, what's going on when you see some celebrity is doing something that all of the major news sources are reporting? It's like, seriously? That's the news? No. Something else is going on, and they just, that's not what they're reporting. But
for every criminal that they show on the news and they get you to think that this is the way. If you're walking down the street, the average person in an American city anyways is always looking over their shoulder. Now, 9,999 people who are walking on that street with you are not going to do you any harm. No. But we're so mediated by the media approach and by all the stuff that we've been fed that, everybody's got this nervousness about them.
Well, that's why you guys, that the thing about, everybody's got to have a gun in the United States, and by God, I mean, you're killing each other. That's what I see from,
that's where the wisdom comes in. That's where the wisdom comes in. Because, and really, the big thing that it should be, I got to change the media, the TV and radio, and take all the garbage off it. Video games are ridiculous. But the public schools, all right, why are there no classes in emotional intelligence? Why are there no classes how to thrive better in the workplace, how to be happier at home?
Yeah.
How to organize your community so the neighbors all know each other and like each. None of this gets taught in the school. They get taught competition as opposed to cooperation. And when cooperation attains the same status in education that competition now has, things are going to change drastically for the better.
I know this is a cheeky answer, but when you ask the question, my immediate response in my brain is, who would teach it?
Wisdom professionals.
Yeah, no, exactly, because This is where teachers
Got
can't
a lot
teach.
of people like that. Who are we learning it from? I mean, I watched the videos. Daniel Goleman wrote the book, Emotional Intelligence. Deepak has like 1,000
Oh,
videos on Dalai Lama. There, Wayne Dyer, and hundreds and hundreds of people that most folks have never heard of. But if you go and search this stuff on the internet, you can find, I mean, there's a lot of people out there teaching it. It's just a matter of getting it into the mainstream. And unfortunately, the mainstream is pretty much run at this point by people who it is in their interest to keep us dumbed down and afraid and to keep us feeling powerless. Because once you feel like you have that hole in your life, then you're constantly looking for goods and services to fill it up with, and you're buying their crap, and they're real happy about that.
yeah.
And you have a hole in your life that just can't be filled because you're trying to fill it up with stuff that you could
won't do
throw.
it.
You could throw tons in there. It's not going to
Yeah.
fill that hole.
Well, I was being, in the sense of, we have a lot of people even on my show, like yourself, even that share wisdom and that are just, it's profound. But you have to go out and look for it. The school system, like you say, if you've got teachers who are in competition for their wages, if they're in competition for fairness in how many kids are in a classroom, they can't teach it. But they can learn for themselves. They can seek out these wisdom teachers. But I think what you're talking about is taking it to the level where teachers and parents demand this stuff be brought into the school. Just like they fought like crazy for different books, against people wanted to burn certain books, don't teach this book. Well, we can rally together and say, you know what, our kids need real life skills. How many times did you actually use, that memory work you did in grade 3 that was taught to you again in grade 4, grade 5, and grade 6, but you weren't taught something so simple, as you say, as anger management, or, that's not even the right word for it, but it's more about empowerment.
That's important, yeah.
It is,
And
but why are you angry? I mean, anger management is sometimes it's sort of taught to teach people how to suppress it, and I feel like, why are you angry? That's the thing. Of course you're angry. We're living in a world that has created this, like you say, competition everywhere, not good enough. The messages are pushed at children constantly. And what you're talking about is taking it to that new level, which has, and we know is true. There's enough of everything. There is, love is really the answer. John Lennon was right, and so we're, the Beatles, and I mean, it's so funny now when you think about it, how certain things were tried to be told to us over the years, and we just kind of went, yeah, that's flaky, or that's woo-woo, or that's whatever. But now we're starting to clue in.
It turned out to be full of shit is the problem. I mean, a lot of people of my generation got into that whole all you need is love thing when we were growing up in the 60s and early 70s. And then, oh yeah, we're never going to fall in with that. And they're like saying how, oh, these people are, they're all caring about nobody but themselves. Next thing you know, they had a kid and they're working on Wall Street. And they're doing exactly the thing. So there's something to what we were talking about earlier, that authenticity, where if you don't say it, don't mean it. And if you mean it, then, have the walk. Go ahead and coordinate with the talk,
Yeah, exactly. And I just, I really think I've heard of some really excellent things going on. Matter of fact, there's some schools now that have incorporated meditation as a tool. They're finding huge shifts in children's performance and ability.
They know what's good. I mean, everybody does. There's nobody in any governmental position. The top brass at Halliburton will all admit that they know what's good. I mean, meditation works, and like, we gotta, but that doesn't. But they know that it's going to be counterproductive to their profits.
Yeah, but we don't.
Sure, not in the long run, because they could readjust things, make the same amount of money without hurting anybody. This is the part that baffles me. Why people haven't heard of this or considered this, because take the bomb factories and turn them into something else factories. Take the Army, turn them into the Army Corps of Engineers. Can you imagine if the whole military force was building and fixing things instead of breaking them and blowing them up? There'd be no cause for war. Everybody'd have everything. So
Well,
it's
and
just
I
a
think
reallocation of the resources that needs done. And this thing about bringing emotional intelligence into the schools is well and good, and it's a step, but it has to be. I mean, a parent has a kid from 0 to 5 before they go to school, right? So not only does it have to be in the schools, but it has to be instituted in the homes. And so adults have to learn what emotional intelligence is first before they can give it to their children.
Right.
And there again is where the wisdom professionals come in.
And this is what I love about it, because we can talk about all what's wrong in the world. Not going to make one bit of difference. Nobody, they're not listening. We are actually the majority. The majority of the people on this planet are not the ones who have up till now thought we had any power. And it's crazy. Even if you when you think about it, 7 billion people on the planet, and there's a couple of 100,000 that are actually running the show for the rest of us. And all it is a matter of doing some of the things like you're talking about, choosing differently, changing what we put our focus on, turn off the TV, learn, embrace these things that we want. Instead of saying, well, they're too big and I'm just a little guy and I can't do anything. You are living evidence of someone who has said, I can get off my bar stool, put down my beer, and go and do something. And you did. And it's fantastic. And I'm just wanting people to see that you put your pants on the same way as the rest of us do. I think I'm assuming, and exactly. And so you don't have to be sitting in a bar to figure it out. You can be sitting in your home, your cardboard box, whatever it might be. You actually make a difference.
You don't have to be a genius to do it either. I mean, we're talking average person here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we all are, right? I mean, we all have our different unique gifts and talents, and I think that's what you're bringing out. And what I like is the fact that the books are an inspiration, and you are an author now. You're 2 published books. There's just no doubt you are. And so you've taken it to this next phase so you can share, because you can't talk to everybody. That's why you have to write a book.
Yeah.
Right? So can you tell us then, Ten? I'm going to have the links on the video.
Good.
Where people can get, if they order it now, can they get? Is it a hard copy or just the internet copy?
No, both books are a soft cover, and they're also available as ebooks.
Okay.
All right, so you can buy them in print, hold it in your hand and read it kind of book, or get it as an ebook through Kindle or Smashwords. If you go to the website, you can, the sample chapters there and all the information, newspaper clippings, a lot of other stuff that we've been talking about, a bunch of interviews. I'm told it's a very entertaining website. Some people just go and they read the website and they don't end up getting the books, but that's okay. If they're having fun, they're having fun, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
All right. But, so it's readily available. Amazon has them. Like I said earlier, it's got between the 2 books, there are 25-star reviews and 1 4-star review. So people are liking them.
Yeah.
Website is www.fearlesspuppy.org. O-R-G, and Fearless Puppy is spelled just like it sounds. FEARLESSPUPPY.org, and a lot of entertainment over there besides all the information we're talking about, and links directly to purchasing the books as well.
Right. Well, I think this is, I'm just so excited about the fact that this information's out there. It's a tool, it helps empower people to sort of get that motivation to get up off their butts and do things, and make a difference. Because you're really real, and that helps. Because when, the Wayne Dyers of the world and all that kind of stuff, a lot of people see a big gap. They don't see themselves as...
That's really the whole point of me being me, is that a lot of this stuff is too far afield for folks, to go into a Buddhist temple and see them in their robes and everything. It's too foreign for a lot of folks, and even somebody speaking English, like you say, Deepak or Wayne Dyer, Marianne Williamson, whoever it is, they feel like there's that, oh, that's a special person. And the whole point, not the whole point, but a very major part of what I'm doing here is to make it real obvious that that is a gap that's manufactured in each person's mind. There's no, anybody can do that. Anybody can do anything, all right? And anybody could like just be themselves. You don't have to quit your life and go become a spiritual teach, bloody blah, do whatever. And just like anybody can do
I'm just really grateful for you joining me, Ten. It's been wonderful.
Pleasure is mine. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Anytime.
Hello.
Wasn't that amazing? Thank you to my guests for sharing with us today. Thank you for watching. Feel free to share the link. You can join us for live shows by going to letsgetrealchattingwithcatherine.com and listen to the replays from the show page, preview guests, and explore links to our Facebook fan page, WordPress blog, and more. We are creating an exquisite world. Until next time, take care.